Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Revisiting Archive. We're now on the 10th episode of our series on Spanish history, and today we're diving into one of the most critical junctures that affected not just Spain but all of Europe, the will and testament of Charles II. Charles II was the last Habsburg monarch of Spain, and his childless and ailing condition led to an enormous power vacuum that nearly turned Europe upside down. Join me as we delve into the in-depth intricacies of how Charles II's decision set the stage for one of the most consequential conflicts in European history, the War of Spanish Succession. The Will and Testament of Charles II, the last Habsburg monarch of Spain, is a landmark document that reverberated far beyond the Spanish court, igniting a series of diplomatic and military events that had long-lasting implications for Europe. It marked a critical juncture in the complex labyrinth of the 17th century European politics and alliances. Weighed down by the absence of an heir and failing health, Charles II had to make a choice that was not just a matter of domestic governance, but a pivotal moment affecting the stability of Europe for years to come. Charles II was aware that his frailty and childlessness posed a significant risk to the continuity of the Spanish crown. Internally, various factions at the Spanish court lobbied incessantly, each with its favorite candidate for succession. This cacophony of voices was not merely a domestic issue, it was intrinsically tied to Spain's place in the broader European context. The neighboring powers, primarily France and Austria, sought to sway Charles' decision as his chosen heir would significantly tilt the balance of power in their favor or against them. Consequently, ambassadors, spies, and envoys engaged in covert and overt diplomatic missions aimed at influencing the royal testament. Charles himself was torn between loyalties, political expediencies, and the weight of the Habsburg legacy. Several names were floated as possible successors, reflecting a myriad of political alliances and potential power shifts in Europe. Archduke Charles of Austria was a prominent contender, a candidate that would maintain Habsburg continuity. However, this would risk merging the Austrian and Spanish crowns, something that alarmed England and the Dutch Republic. The other main candidate was Philip, Duke of Anjou, a Bourbon, and a grandson to Louis XIV of France. Support for Philip was rooted in France's ascending status as a military and economic powerhouse, which could potentially rejuvenate Spain's dwindling fortunes. This list was not exhaustive, though, with other European nobility being considered, even if briefly, as possible heirs. Advisors such as Cardinal Portocarrero and influential figures like the Queen Mariana of Austria played crucial roles as conduits for the views and pressures coming from abroad. After years of uncertainty and diplomatic maneuvering, Charles II made his final decision, bequeathing his throne to Philip, Duke of Anjou. This choice shook the very foundations of European politics. France felt cautiously triumphant, but understood the precarious nature of the situation. The potential for a united Bourbon dynasty across France and Spain was a threatening prospect for the rest of Europe. Austria, on the other hand, felt outright betrayed and maligned, interpreting the will as a violation of Habsburg legacy and a disruption to their European ambitions. The Spanish court itself had varying reactions. While some felt relieved that a decision was finally made, others were concerned about the political implications of a Bourbon king, not least because it shifted the Spanish alliances and incurred the risk of being subjugated to the French influence. Why did Charles II choose a Bourbon heir? One of the most compelling reasons was the ascent of France as the dominant European power. A Franco-Spanish alliance, Charles II believed, would safeguard the territorial integrity of the Spanish Empire, which had been dwindling due to military and financial constraints. Additionally, Charles had been advised that the Bourbons, particularly under Louis XIV, had successfully centralized power, something that Spain badly needed to address its political fragmentations. He also foresaw that a Bourbon succession would be more diplomatically tenable and less likely to incite immediate conflict compared to an Austrian Habsburg succession, given the multiple territorial disputes between Austrian and Spanish interests. Charles II was astute enough to understand the risks of a Bourbon succession. To mitigate these, he included specific clauses in his will that aimed to prevent the unification of the French and Spanish kingdoms. This was an attempt to mollify other European powers who feared a Franco-Spanish superstate. These conditions had significant diplomatic repercussions, becoming a cornerstone in the Treaty of Utrecht that eventually ended the War of Spanish Succession. Whether they succeeded in their intended goal remains a subject of historical interpretation, but they undoubtedly influenced the diplomatic course of the era. The will of Charles II was more than a testament. It was a diplomatic bombshell that set off a complex chain reaction leading to the War of Spanish Succession. It showcased the intricate political machinations that were at play within and beyond the Spanish court, as European powers vied for influence and territorial gains. Charles II's choice of a Bourbon heir was a gamble, both an admission of Spain's declining fortunes and a calculated risk to secure its future. However, the gamble did not pay off as he had hoped, plunging Europe into a protracted conflict. Thus, the will remains a defining document, laying bare the complexities of inheritance, alliances, and enmities that shaped Europe at the dawn of the 18th century. And that concludes our detailed exploration of Charles II's will and its far-reaching implications. Through the lens of this pivotal document, we've gained a nuanced understanding of the pressures, the political maneuvering, and the difficult decisions that shaped the map of Europe in ways still being discussed by historians today. It's fascinating how the absence of a single heir could throw an entire continent into turmoil. Thank you for joining me for this 10th episode in our series of Spanish history here at Revisiting Archive. If you found this content enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes like this. Until next time, keep revisiting the archive.